What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a new leader coming from OP-04. Kingdom of Conspiracy, Kingdom of Intrigues, call it what you will. We've got ourselves a new leader. Of course, I've already shown you 3 leaders from the set. I showed you Nefertari Vivi, I showed you Rebecca, and I showed you Crocodile, and actually I've shown you a super rare Luffy card as well. The reveals from OP-04 have been, well, slow, frankly. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. The reveals from OP-04 have been very slow. It's been taking a while to get going, but we're making it, ladies and gentlemen. This was revealed over in a booster pack. We've got Donquixote Doflamingo, and this one is one I think we can get a little bit excited about. By the way, just to confirm in the name, the Japanese name is Kingdom of Conspiracies, but it's Kingdoms of Intrigue over here. So I'm not going silly. This is just a thing that's happening. So what we got here with the leader is a dual color green and purple. That is the first time we've seen one of those. And we got the usual thing, which is 5,000 power for life, which is exactly what we see on these dual color leaders. That is exactly what we would expect. And we've got a skill whereby, and I did translate this myself, but then I checked with a lovely Orange Samurai D who checked with Helio on the Discord. And what we've got is, at the end of your turn, set up to 2 of your Don cards as active. And this is a really, really interesting skill. Because, of course, when you get to the start of your turn, your Don become active. That's what happens. That is one of the things. At the start of your turn, your exhausted characters become active, your arrested Don become active, all of that. Essentially, everything gets refreshed. So the only reason to refresh the Don at the end of your turn is so that you can, well, basically have some Don to use during your opponent's turn. And if you got Don during your opponent's turn, then what you're really doing here is using this to use your event cards. And I love this, ladies and gentlemen. I absolutely love this. But just to be perfectly clear, we are talking about a different kind of deck here, yeah? If you're building this, you've got to build it in a particular kind of way. Let's be very, very clear. But let's also think, well, hang on a second, 2 cost event cards that are purple or green are now essentially free. Because what you're doing here is you're using all of your Don, you're not saving any for your opponent's turn, but then you're having 2 Don, assuming they're not attached, you need to have them on the field and all of that. But you've then got 2 of your Don to use on your opponent's turn, so 2 cost event cards basically become free. That's the deal here. So how about something like Hell's Judgment? A 2 cost card, and it's got counter Don -1, give up to 2 of your opponent's leader or characters minus 3,000 power during this turn. That sounds pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Don -1, remember, at the start of your next turn, you're going to get 2 Don back. Because you play 2 Don from the Don deck at the start of your turn. So the shuffling the Don back isn't really a big deal, depending on where you are in the game. In the early game, obviously, it could be. And the cost doesn't really matter, because you're basically using the Don, and then you're getting to reuse them. So that's a good thing. And yeah... This seems very, very good. Now, just to be clear, right? It's not just 2 cost purple and green cards, all right? That is not the only thing we can use here. But I do think that this is kind of the hook, yeah? This is a case of, I can play these cards because that's what color my leader is. They're going to be free because of it. And now we can start rolling. And there are a bunch here, which I like very, very much. So how about something like Punk Gibson? Your leader or up to 1 of your characters gains 4,000 power for the duration of the battle, and then rest 1 of your opponent's characters that costs 4 or less. So basically you counter out of 1 attack. Yay! But then you also get to rest 1 of your opponent's characters, basically getting out of 2 attacks. That's kind of the goal here. I also really, really like Thunder Bagua here. It's a counter. Your leader or 1 of your characters gains 4,000 power during this battle. And then if you have 2 or less life, or 2 or fewer life, add a Don from your Don deck and rest it. So you get a 4,000 counter, just like with Punk Gibson, but then you go and get yourself an extra Don as well. Or we could go for Repel, a 2-cost green, counter, your leader or one of your characters gains 4,000 power during this battle, and then set one of your Don cards as active. So you don't gain a Don, but you get to make another Don active, which again is really just compounding what you're already doing. And you'll notice that a lot of these are 4,000 counter. Repel is a 4,000 counter. Punk Gibson is a 4,000 counter. Thunder Magua is a 4,000 counter. And this is just good, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very good. There are others, all right? There are plenty of others, but these are the ones that really jumped out to me initially. And they're all free. And that is what is so gosh darn good about this character. Because all of a sudden now, you've got these event cards that are basically free. And look, you've played a bunch of One Piece games. I've played a bunch of One Piece games. Resources are important. Deciding what to use your Don for is very, very important. We've all lost games, and I refuse to believe there's people out there that haven't. We've all lost games because we didn't save enough Don for our opponent's turn. And then we ended up in a situation where we had an event card we could have used, but we didn't have the Dawn in order to use it, and that's what ended up costing us the game. We've all done it. Maybe it was early on, maybe we were young and naive, but we've all done it. This stops that being a problem, and that's why this is such a big deal. And I do think this is a leader with a huge amount of promise. I think this is one that is going to see a whole bunch of play, and you've got to build your deck with event cards far more in mind than I think your average deck does. And then, like I said at the beginning, this is a deck which you are going to have to build a little differently. A leader you're going to have to play around with a little bit more, but I do think if you do, there is a very, very powerful leader here. Because let's not forget that Donquixote Doflamingo came around initially, but back in Romance Dawn, and it was good. Like, the Romance Dawn Donquixote Doflamingo was a very, very, very good card. Because it's got that amazing skill whereby Don X2, when attacking, pay 1. Reveal a card from the top of your deck if it's a 7 Warlords of the Sea character. With a cost of 4 or less, you can play it rested. You get an extra character. Things are good. And then there's ways to manipulate your deck to try and make sure that's always the case. Cool card. Really good in Romance Dawn. Less good in the Paramount War meta. Although I have seen it doing well in some tournaments, so I don't think it's unplayable or anything like that. But I do think it's fair to say it was way better in OP-01 than it is in OP-02. But if you're a fan of Donquixote Doflamingo, he's coming back. And I'll be honest with you, it's starting to look a little bit like the designers of the game might have a little bit of a soft spot for Doflamingo. This is the second leader we've seen, and the second one that is pretty gosh darn good. We've seen a bunch of other character cards as well. 3 in total as it stands. But my point is, this is a very, very cool leader. And Kingdoms of Intrigue is starting to shake out as a very, very interesting set. Of course, you've got Nefertari Vivi. Now, the leader cannot attack, but bearing in mind it's a 5-life dual-color leader, that's why they can't attack. And you pay 2 once per turn to draw a card and give one of your characters rush during the turn. I adore this leader. This might be my favorite leader I've seen so far. This is one that I am absolutely going to be wanting to play around with because this is absolutely brilliant. We've seen Rebecca, who again is a 5-life dual color leader, blue and black, but cannot attack because they've essentially added in a rule in this set, which is you can have a dual color leader with 5 life, but they're not allowed to attack. And then once per turn, you pay 1. And if you have 6 or fewer cards in your hand, look at the 2 cards on the top of your deck, find a Dressrosa type card and add it to your hand. That's going to be a very consistent deck you can be having a little bit of a play around with. And I don't like it as much as I like Vivi, but I do think that is a very cool skill that some people are absolutely going to take advantage of. We've then got Crocodile, which is your dual color purple and yellow leader. On your opponent's turn, once per turn, when you return Don from the field to your Don deck through one of your effects, add a Don from your Don deck as active. So any skills that activate on your opponent's turn and lose you a Don, you can essentially get one back, which is cool. The leaders in this set are shaping up to be extremely interesting, and I think Doflamingo could be might even be the most interesting. For me, Nefertari Vivi is still the one I want to be playing around with most. I'm sorry, being able to give me lots of extra rush just makes me so happy. But I'll tell you what, this leader, being able to get 2 extra Dawn essentially during your opponent's turn every turn, playing all those event cards for free, yeah, you better believe I'm getting excited about this one. Alright, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's it, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me if you think it's as good as I think it is. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.